And it is a Tuesday, the 9th of March 2021, and this is the Morning Express right here on Starsat channel 500, and also on Facebook. We are Galaxy Universal Network, live in Johannesburg from our Midrand studios. Good morning, South Africa and everyone on the African continent. I am MBELE, and on that note, let us take a look at our 60 minutes rundown of today's headlines and news. We'll certainly take a look at the latest COVID-19 stats, and MAGASHULE outlines the ANC'S NEC resolution from the former president Jacob Zuma to appearing to the commission at this point that is underway with Zondo. With the Zondo Commission, we'll also certainly take a look at more news. Suspect in Kune murder case has also been freed, and that story we'll get into details a bit later on right here on the story. We certainly get to engage today with REITUMETSE SHEBE, really to celebrate the day that was yesterday, celebrating the day that was a day of women, celebrating mothers, sisters, and all females in South Africa and throughout the African continent. Really get to take about the symbolic event that it was, and what does it mean to South African women and women on the African continent to celebrate and to honor themselves. But right on the Morning Express, engage with us on our various social media platforms. On Twitter, we are gun_TV_, and on Facebook, we are Galaxy Universal Network. Good morning, South Africa. Let us take a look at our leading headline this morning. Take a look at our health stats this morning. In our first story, we start with the latest COVID-19 statistics from South Africa, with over a total of 1.2 million cases of COVID-19 and a recovery rate of 94.7%. And these latest numbers were released last night by the Health Ministry, which also said there are now over 50,803 deaths recorded in the last 24 hours. And certainly the stats also show that KwaZulu-Natal is leading the way with a number of active cases, followed by the Free State and Gauteng. And Gauteng has remained the epicenter of the outbreak, accounting for 26.7% of the overall cases load, followed by KZN province with over 330,000, while the province of the Western Cape and the Eastern Cape account for 18.3% and 12.8% respectively. And the total number of vaccines administered stands at 107,054. And last week, the minister had described the journey of dealing as well as attempts to curtail the spread of the virus as something that he hoped that the country was never too afraid to face. And Mkhize made these remarks at the Pietermaritzburg Hospital, where he was reflecting on 1 year since the country reported its first patient through the COVID-19 pandemic.
With a lot of anxiety and trepidation, as I drove from Johannesburg in the morning from a meeting which I was addressing to Cape Town to the address which we're going to have in the afternoon in a debate around the preparedness of the country on coronavirus infection. I had to call the President and say to His Excellency, Mr. President, this is the call I have wished never to ever have to make, to confirm that we have the first COVID-19 positive patient identified in South Africa. I went to brief the President, and thereafter the media, and the rest of the debate was on the basis of how well prepared we are as South Africa for this. It has been a very rough journey, if one may say. In that process, we've learned a lot, we've made many mistakes, and we've also achieved a lot. And on that basis, it is important for us to thank all the South Africans for all of what.
And also speaking was Dr. Bradley Naidu, who was on duty at the hospital.
Came in quite well. It was actually my last night shift before I was scheduled to go on leave. A relatively good night in the hospital, and then around midnight I received a call saying that there is a coronavirus case, that the ambulance drivers would be bringing the case through to our hospital. Please open up our isolation unit and please admit the patient and go from there. Our senior doctors came out, our nursing staff came out, and I think it must have been almost an hour or so before the patient came in. But that 1 hour felt like 1 day of life. A million thoughts rushed through my mind at that point regarding the patient. With all of this news from overseas speaking about how sick people were, We were wondering how sick this individual would be. Would they need oxygen? Would they need ICU? What care could we give them? Because they were so little known at that point. But thoughts also went through to badly my own personal safety as well as the safety of the team around us. And much in those preceding weeks was done by with the exceptional work from our minister, our MEC, our leaders, our local hospital team, to set up an isolation area, to make sure that the area was safe and conducive to our patient and ourselves. And amazing work was done by our IPC sisters and team in terms of securing us PPE, training us how to use the PPE, which is now called donning and doffing. And all of this came into play in that one fateful night. So many thoughts went through our mind as to then, would the PPE work? Would we be exposed? What would happen if our PPE failed when we saw the patient? And again, just again to the safety of our team. But despite all of that, we put our patient first and we made sure that we took care of them before anything else. Those first few days were incredibly dynamic in the sense that things that we all took for granted, being able to just see a patient normally, write notes normally, go in and prescribe medications, take blood tests and do testing, all became a very unique challenge, and many people with incredible ideas had to step up to fix these and to find solutions for these problems. Simple things like every bit of stationery or paper that went in to see the patient had to remain there for infection control purposes.
And the ANC's top brass has resolved to leave former President Jacob Zuma to his own device after he defied his continued defiance at the Zondo Commission's summons to refusal to appear before the inquiry. And this is according to the ANC Secretary General MAGASHULE, who briefed the media on the outcomes of the marathon meeting between the national officials of the governing party with Zuma, which he said was held between 10 a.m. and 5:30 p.m. yesterday on a Monday. And this comes as Zuma missed the deadlines to file answers on the papers within the Zondo Commission contempt of court application at the Constitutional Court, where the inquiry is calling for him to be handed a 2-year jail term if he is found guilty. And MAGASHULE said the meeting with Zuma was a follow-up on the resolution by the ANC's National Executive Committee, which called on all top 6 to engage with Zuma over his issue with the Zondo Commission. And he added that the ANC's officials have, however, could not convince the former head of state, as he pointed out his constitutional rights and gave them an extensive presentation on why he has snubbed the commission.
But we further emphasize that it is also important to understand and respect the Bill of Rights as enshrined in the Constitution. Comrade Zuma made a very extensive presentation on what has prompted his decision not to appear before what you term the Zondo Commission. And he also talked about his rights as enshrined in the Constitution of South Africa and the rights of all South Africans. And we all agree that there has not been any intention to undermine the Constitution of South Africa. And President Comrade Zuma told the top 6 that he believes that he has been subjected to unfair persecution and prosecution over 2 decades. And he emphasized that as a law-abiding citizen, he respects the Constitution and that he too is entitled to the basic rights, as I've said, as enshrined in the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa under the Bill of Rights. And the top 6 agreed that we have heard President Zuma, we have engaged. We all were very happy about the engagement, the discussions, and all of us are saying we need to ensure that we build the unity of South Africans, the unity of our structures. All of us must unite, build the ANC, and continue respecting the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. And the top 6 heard this explanation and agreed to give him space to continue consulting with his lawyer.
News just in at this point outside Witwatersrand University. Students are protesting outside the university and within the premises, making sure that their voices are heard in terms of what has been described as the NSFAS debacle, in terms of them being funded by the National Student Fund that has been affording university students with the opportunity to go to university if they could not meet their own financial exclusion within university. A lot is happening at this point outside the Witwatersrand University. Let us take a look in terms of what is happening at this point as we try to get students to comment on what is happening at this point. And certainly that is what is happening outside Witwatersrand University at this point, and it is about the sensitive viewers on the next clips that we're about to play on what is currently happening outside Witwatersrand University. And certainly we'll continue with that story as it continues to develop throughout the morning to bring you all the latest news and updates in terms of what will be happening outside Witwatersrand University later on today. But as we take a look at our another story this morning, a 17-year-old teenager who appeared before the Venterstroop Children's Court has as prescribed by the Child Justice Act on Monday, the 8th of March 2021, for the alleged murder of 27-year-old Mapula Meiki Kune, was freed, the NPA confirmed. And this comes after the 17-year-old boy was charged on Friday afternoon, the 5th of March 2021 in Venterstroop following the alleged murder of Kune. And yesterday, the NPA said that the case was not placed on the court's toll due to insufficient evidence that was produced by the lawyers. And this was alleged that on Thursday, the 4th of March 2021, at about 5 a.m., neighbors saw smoke coming from the house in Extension 2 in Venterstroop. An emergency service were called, who were rather forcing entry into the back room, discovered the severely burnt body of Kune on top of her bed. And according to police reports, only the back room was damaged during the fire. And Colonel Adele Mayberg from the Northwest South African Police Service has more details on the matter.
Murder of 27-year-old Mapula Kune, also known as Meiki. This comes after the 17-year-old boy was charged on Friday afternoon, the 5th of March in Ventersdorp, following the alleged murder of Kune. It is alleged that on Thursday, the 4th of March, at about 5 o'clock in the morning, neighbors saw smoke coming from a house in extension to Tsing. Emergency services were called, who after forcing entry into a back room discovered the severely burnt body of Kune on top of a bed. Only the back room was damaged during the fire. Police initially investigated an inquest, but after obtaining more information, the inquest was changed to murder. Since Friday, additional cases of assault with the intent to do grievous bodily harm have been reported, as community street patrollers and family members have allegedly been assaulting alleged perpetrators of the murder of Kune. The Provincial Commissioner of Northwest, Lieutenant General Selokwena, lauded police for their speedy response that ensured the apprehension of the perpetrator within 1 day after committing the alleged murder. He said the police will continue to work hard to ensure the safety of the most vulnerable and condemned the incidents of violence reported. Further, he cautioned members of the community to not take the law into their own hands, but cooperate with the police in order to ensure that justice is served as prescribed by law.
And the South African National Editors Forum has on Sunday condemned the threats on ENCA reporter Lindsay Dinklinger's life following a video montage selected from some of her work in Parliament. And the senior journalist received a widespread backlash after last month's post-budget interviews sparked allegations of racism following unfair treatment of black and white interviewees in relation to adhering to COVID-19 protocol.
Sorry, Mr. Bonga, can I just ask you to put your mask on before you continue? We are trying to respect COVID-19 protocols and set a good example. Over your nose too, please, sir. Thank you. Sorry, as you were saying.
I think there were two major disappointments, Lindsay, I'm afraid.
Take the offer up.
Thank you very much, John. Quickly, Koleko Shengwa, please keep your mask on, though, Koleko. From the IS, thank you very much, Mr. Peter Groenewald from the Freedom Front Plus. If I can ask Mr. Kwankwa there from the UDM, please can you keep your mask on, sir? Sorry to step.
And while Dinklinger has denied the claims, saying the inconsistent behavior regarding COVID-19 protocols during the interviews was not racially motivated, and she has been subjected to a series of attacks on social media by members of the public. And Senef said the abuse, which includes rape threats, was uncalled for and has called for the media freedom to be protected. And Senef met with the ENCA management earlier this week following the allegations of racism at the broadcaster and against Dinklinger. And reflecting on the events of the past week, Senef said the abuse of journalists, particularly women journalists, was a rife of social media platform. And while the forum believes South Africa have the right to call out journalists to improve credibility, this should not rather degrade into cyberbullying as currently faced by Dinklinger and ENCA. And last week, the African National Congress has told the channel to withdraw what it labeled as an offensive statement in which they defended journalist Lindsay Dinklinger, as well as sent an additional apology to all South Africans for the pain and the hurt that she has caused.
Is to protest against racism. It doesn't matter whether you're black or white. If you express yourself in racist terms, you're offensive to the people of South Africa. We've suffered for many, many years. We don't need to repeat the latent attitudes that come from people who haven't been taught how not to be racist and how to treat people as equals and how to treat people with basic decency and respect. And 53 of our regions are protesting throughout the country, and we are here to hand over a memorandum to the ENCA leadership, because we believe that journalism leads in our country. People who are journalists are the people who influence the minds of people, and they must work on a higher level of discipline and adherence to the Constitution, as they constantly remind us, than any other normal person. So it's unacceptable that that they haven't, as the ENCA, issued a statement that is correcting the situation. They're saying that things like she didn't mean it. Well, we don't know. All we know is what we saw, and what we saw as South Africans is somebody behaving in a very racist manner, asking black people to put on masks, and over several different interviews not asking white people to do the same. And whether she is black or white is irrelevant. It's the action that is incorrect.
And the memorandum was received by ENCA's Norman Munzuhelele.
Thank you very much, DSG. I think on behalf of ENCA management, as the captain of the team, we accept this memorandum, and we hear the demands that.
Whispering. Please speak a bit louder, sir.
Yeah, it's overpaid.
Journalists are going to say, mumbling. Put it there.
No, I'm saying thank you very much, DSG, and all the people who are here. I want to accept this memorandum on behalf of ENCA management as the captain of the team. And I want to give you our commitment as ENCA, as I said yesterday, that ENCA does not exist in a vacuum. ENCA exists in South Africa, which is a constitutional democracy, and ENCA commits itself to contribute to building a non-racial, non-sexist, united and democratic South Africa. And we will do everything possible within our powers as the ENCA to ensure that we transform, to ensure that our journalists, our management are aware of racial issues in the country. We understand that's a very sensitive issue of race and race relations. And as yesterday I've said, I've committed that we will have programs that we are going to be implementing that touches on our journalists, be it round tables and all of those things. We hope that you will be willing, DSG, when we invite you to come for those kind of discussions.
We will
as the ENCA. We'll commit, and we will be able to respond to the demands that you have given to us. Thank you very much. And we also want to thank you for the spirit within which you have demonstrated and picketed outside here. We really want to appreciate your members, what they've done.
And the Passenger Rail Agency of South Africa has clarified its position regarding newly appointed CEO Zolani Matthews, who is 64 years of age. And recent reports by Group Up stated that the appointment was against the company's age policy. And according to advocate of the PRASA board, Smanga Sitene, due to processes were followed with the appointment when the appointment was made. And he said that Matthews was not permanent but on a fixed-term contract. And he said that the media frenzy initiated by the publication of PRASA has rather employed the group CEO was inconsistent with PRASA's policy, proved to extent to which people could peddle information from the depth of their ignorance.
We launch here today the People's Responsibility to Protect, which is a community-based program that mobilize communities to be the eyes and the ears of the PRASA, as well as the broader security around the crime that happened at the station. So we launched it today. It's starting to roll out tomorrow. The people at this Langa station, there will be 10 volunteers here at every given time. They all come from Langa. All the stations towards Cape Town, they're all going to be part of this program. Every station is 10. Operation station to town is 4 stations. That means it's going to be 40 volunteers. But this is now the start. It's going to be on the phased approach. As we introduce the service, the volunteers come on stream.
And certainly with more news and updates right here on the Morning Express desk after this. And a schoolboy was amongst those killed during a violent protest in Senegal at the weekend. Officials said bring the death toll from days of violence in West Africa state to 5. And clashes first interrupted between opposition supporters and security forces on Wednesday, and after arrests and opposition leaders were rather escalated into the worst unrest seen in Senegal in years. And people torched cars, burned and looted shops and hurled stones at police during protest, which also highlighted the long-standing grievances over living standards and economic exclusion within the country. And on that note, welcome back from the ad break. We certainly had to come back and give you all that story as it broke right here on the Morning Express. And on Saturday, people were demonstrating in the southern town of Dayobe against Sonko's arrest when the situation quickly deteriorated and the security officials told AFP. And protesters torched a station within the area and a customs post and caused, and officially on Saturday morning, conditions of grievances were rather heard throughout a mile away. A schoolboy was killed and 6 people were seriously injured in clashes, and the officials added a toll confirmed by the spokesperson of Senegal. 4 people were rather previously reported killed in the violence. And Senegal, a former French colony of 60 million people, is often hailed as a beacon of stability in the vital region. But about 40% of the population lives below the poverty line, and the country is bracing for a fresh round of opposition protests starting on Monday, and the government has offered schools a nationwide close for the week. And Snongo, 46 years of age, a fierce critic of the government elected in the Senegal region, was arrested on Wednesday on charges of disturbing public order within the capital of Dakar. And the move after scuffles of opposition supporters broke out while Sonko was on his way to court to answer a separate rape charge, which he says was politically motivated. And certainly with all those news and updates right here on the Morning Express, we take a look at our next story, all things happening within our African continent. Certainly all things really happening. We certainly take a look at police sources confirmed that French billionaire Olivia was killed on Sunday in a helicopter crash with President Emmanuel on board, paying tribute to the 69-year-old politician at the time. And Dansouat was the elder son of the late French billionaire's industrialist Serge Dansouat, of those within the area, and builds was rather warplanes and owns a Lisa, a newspaper. And Morocco's wrote on his Twitter that Olivia Dansouat, who was rather described as someone who loved France, a lawmaker, local elected official, reserve commissioner, and within the Air Force, and during his life served, made sure sure that people were at peace and all assets that were rather belonging to him were going to be set aside for the family. And he added that the sudden death was a pain and a great loss, adding that his thoughts are with his family and loved ones. And the private helicopter crashed on Sunday afternoon in Normandy, where he has a holiday home, according to police source, and the pilot was also killed. And the U.S. Senate and at the passed of the American Rescue Plan, aiming to provide urgent relief to people and business amid of the economic fallout of the COVID-19 pandemic. And every Democratic in the Senate voted for the legislation. A number of Republicans backed the $1.9 trillion US dollar plan, many calling it too expensive.
This plan will get checks out the door starting this month to the American people who so desperately need the help. Many of whom are lying in bed at night, staring at the ceiling, wondering, will I lose my job if I haven't already? Will I lose my insurance? Will I lose my home? Over 85% of American households will get direct payments of $1,400 per person. For a typical middle-class family of four, husband and wife working, making $100,000 a year total, with 3 kids, they'll get $5,600. I mean, with 2 kids, we'll get $5,600, and it'll be on the way soon. That means the mortgage can get paid. That means the child can stay in community college. That means maintaining the health insurance you have. It's going to make a big difference in so many lives in this country. Unemployment benefits will be extended for 11 million Americans who've lost their jobs, who last night, again, were lying in bed thinking, my Lord, I'm going to lose my unemployment insurance in a week or so. It was about to expire. Schools are going to have the resources they need to open safely. States and local governments that have lost tens of thousands of essential workers will have the resources they need available to them. To those laid-off police officers, firefighters, teachers, and nurses they can rehire. These are essential personnel. Look, the American Rescue Plan lowers health care premiums, food and nutrition assistance. It's hard to believe that 24 million adults and 11 million children, as I speak, in the United States suffer from food insecurity. That means simply they don't have enough food to eat. Did you ever imagine in the United States of America, you'd see lines literally miles long, folks in their automobiles waiting for a box of food to be put in their trunk?
And the White House has said the package will deliver immediate relief to the American people, delivering over 1.4 thousand US dollars checks and eligible individuals and families, funding a national vaccination program, extending over $300 US dollars per week unemployment insurance, and providing resources for schools to safely reopen and more. And Biden spoke on how hard the deadly pandemic has been on so many Americans. He noted that as of Friday night, over 519,064 lives have been lost to the virus. So more than 400,000 small businesses have since closed.
This plan gives those families who are struggling the most the help and the breathing room they need to get through this moment. This plan gives small businesses in this country a fighting chance to survive. And one more thing, this plan is historic. Taken all together, this plan is going to make it possible to cut child poverty in half. Let me say it again. It's significant, historic. We'll cut child poverty in half. There's much more to this bill, but for now, let me make one final point. When I was elected, I said we were going to get the government out of the business of battling on Twitter and back in the business of delivering for the American people, of making a difference in their lives, giving everyone a chance, a fighting chance, of showing the American people that their government can work for them. And passing the American Rescue Plan will do that.
And the House of Representatives passed the measure on February 27th with the 50-49 Senate vote and will return to the House where its members are expected to revise the bill on Tuesday. And as of the country faces the grave economic public health crisis, the White House said the legislation will create 7 million new jobs, cut child poverty in half, make health care more affordable and save lives and livelihoods of the children.
I hope it will find quick passage so it can be sent to my desk to be signed into law. By passing the American Rescue Plan, we'll have heeded the voice of the American people, not ignored their voices. By passing this plan, we would have delivered real, tangible results for the American people and their families. They'll be able to see and know and feel the change in their own lives. And by passing this plan, we'll have proved that this government, this democracy, can still work. What has to be done? It'll improve people's lives. And one more thing. The vast majority of economists, left, right, and center, from Wall Street to the private economic polling initiatives. The economists, as I said, left, right, and center, say, in addition to the needs the people have, we need this to grow the economy. That if we haven't spent this money and recreated the kind of incentive for people to be able to make a good living, that we'd be in real trouble. This will create millions of new jobs. There's estimated over 6 million new jobs by itself. Increase the gross domestic product by $1 trillion. Put our nation in a position to outcompete the rest of the world, because the rest of the world is moving, particularly China. And to know that as tough as this moment is, there are brighter days ahead. There really are.
And the United States Department of Homeland Security said that the United States could help pay for transportation, healthcare, legal services, and career and educational programs for migrant families separated under former President Donald Trump's zero-tolerance border strategy. And the administration of U.S. President Joe Biden outlined guidance for its family reunion task force as it seeks to reunite migrant children and their parents separated by Trump's border policy. And the cost could also be covered by non-profit organizations and the private sector, but not the migrant families themselves.
The First Lady has driven us to action through her personal commitment to this moral imperative. And that moral imperative is to reunite the families and restore them to the fullest capacity that we as the United States government can do. And I should say that we are not doing it alone. We are working closely with counsel for the separated family members. We are doing it along with the countries of El Salvador, Guatemala, and Honduras. I spoke with the foreign minister of each of those countries this past Friday. We are doing it with non-governmental organizations, and we intend to and will shortly harness the capabilities, resources, and desire of the private sector. This is not only an all of government, but all of society effort to do what is right. We are hoping to reunite the families either here or in the country of origin. We hope to be in a position to give them the election. And if, in fact, they seek to reunite here in the United States, we will explore lawful pathways for them to remain in the United States and to address the family needs, so we are acting as restoratively as possible.
And certainly, as America is making plans to really progress through, the former President Donald Trump is back to basics in New York. Say it right here. In Manchester City, 21-match winning streak has ended by rivals Manchester United on Sunday, with Oli also side enjoying a 2-0 Premier League derby win at the Midlands Stadium. And the results narrow City's lead over the United at the top of the table to 11 points with 10 games remaining, and was City's first defeat in all competitions since November 21. And City was stunned rather after just 43 seconds when the referee Anthony Taylor pointed to the penalty spot after Gabriel Jesus brought down Anthony just inside the box, and Bruno Federer took the penalty with getting his right hand to the spot, which squeezed in the right corner to give the visitors the lead before Luke sealed games for the visitors.
Harry, what a performance as a skipper. What did you make of it?
Yeah, I thought it was a great performance. Really solid, deserved the win. Started the game brilliant, both halves brilliant. There were times in the game for sure we can do better, we can improve on the ball, especially in the first half. After the first 15 minutes, we was poor for probably 20 minutes, especially on the ball. We kept giving it them back. So we've got to learn from it, but we're still improving. We're a team that we're nowhere near the finished article. It's an important win for our fans. I'm so disappointed that they're not in the stadium to celebrate, because I remember the atmosphere here last year. Yeah, it's probably the one that one of the best I've played in. So no, I'm disappointed that they're not here to celebrate with us, but I'm sure they'll be celebrating tonight.
And certainly with more news and updates after the ad break. And welcome back from the ad break. Thank you very much for joining us right here on the Morning Express. And as I was told before, to always greet and welcome you back from the ad break by my director, Q, working this morning. But thank you very much for joining us. At this point, we get to continue the conversation with REITUMETSE SHEBE, a journalist based in the Vault, to really converse about all things about International Women's Day, which was yesterday. I mean, a lot of people, women, were celebrating women, but it was not as big as it should have been. But good morning, REITUMETSE SHEBE. Thank you very much for joining me right here on the Morning Express.
Good morning, Harmony. Thank you so much for having me. Let me just add that I do agree. A lot of people were not aware of what happened yesterday.
Certainly, but what is the reason to that? A lot of people not being aware of International Women's Day, such a monumental day to celebrate women, to celebrate really the people in Zulubati, a woman Samoa in South Africa, they give birth, they celebrate, but why can't we celebrate and honor such a big day in South Africa?
You know, I really don't think we should blame ignorance on this one, because a lot of people really were just not aware of it. But what I liked was the spirit of wanting to learn about it. With the people who did post about it, the question was not, oh, we didn't know. It was, oh, really, what happened? You know, what can we learn about this day now that we can make a correction in saying, let's celebrate it. It mustn't just pass and not be noticed. I like what Facebook did. So Facebook had this little cute doodle yesterday that turned the letters in the Facebook logo into women's faces. It only happened yesterday. All these faces of women included women from different socioeconomic backgrounds. And I found it to be a very cool and innovative way to still have the meaning of the day and to just not let the importance of the day pass away without us noticing. So I think that was Facebook's way of saying, hey, this is a really important day, of course.
Certainly. But and the reason why I specifically say South Africa, as much as it was international throughout the world, is because we are in South Africa and we got to witness it firsthand in terms of how people really had no idea or had an idea but did not even know how to celebrate such a monumental day for women in our own country and even throughout the world. But how then do you think do we celebrate such a day? Why was such a day even given to women?
The International Women's Day was commemorated to, expose the cultural, the political, and the socio-economic achievements of women, right? So the first time it was celebrated was in 1917, and women had focal points back then, which included social issues like gender-based violence, equality, and reproductive rights, which is very interesting because something they were celebrating in 1917 is the exact same things we are faced with today.
Well, with that being said, REITUMETSE, I think let us continue on that tip, on that conversation. Take a look at what was happening before and today. Take a look at the 1990s, the 80s, and what women are going through today. How vast are these problems? How vast are these problems and solutions? Are we finding any solutions to problem of inequality, of gender-based violence, of women not being seen as equal in terms of workspace and careers, in terms of pay, salaries, in terms of wages, in terms of a lot of things? Are we getting to that point where women too are literally going to be trailblazers of our economy?
You know, I like that question because the answer now becomes the fact that women earn 23% less than men globally. Also, there's less than 25% of parliamentarians which are women, which goes to show the inequality we are still fighting today. If less than 23% of women are earning so much less than men, it goes to show that we are not where we would like to be in terms of the economy. We are not where we would like to be in terms of women leadership being acknowledged. I mean, the Kamala Harris, situation was such a big achievement for all of us because as women of color, we were shown that we actually are making moves in the world, but that's just one woman. And that's the problem. It goes to show that we are so far from reaching solutions in this day and age. As much as women in count are more than men globally, but the reality is that men are attaining more of these jobs and they are earning more for the exact same jobs than women.
That is quite a big point you're making, REITUMETSE, at this point. But then how do we then educate our young girls today to celebrate such an important day, even if they are themselves as women making enough noise about such an important day so that even their male counterparts in workspaces, in taxis, can understand how monumental, how big that day is. It is as big as Mother's Day, as Valentine's Day, as any other day that we get to celebrate. But we are celebrating women who face a lot of gender-based violence, femicide killings in our country. The inequality on its own goes without saying, just to know that even we get to celebrate them on such an important day.
Yes, I like that. So this year's theme was #ChooseToChallenge. So I choose to challenge the visibility of female creatives, also the visibility of women's leadership. So we must look to find solutions that are beyond just the day. We cannot set goals for just International Women's Day. How are we making sure that we are still having conversations about International Women's Day past or beyond this day? The cause needs to stay in our hearts. The cause needs to be the ones that we challenge. So if we challenge gender stereotypes, if we challenge gender equality and gender-based violence, if we have these conversations, that's how we will carry the message from International Women's Day into the causes of our daily lives now. That is a step in the right direction in solving such issues, because the more we talk about them, the more people become aware of them, and the more solutions we can find as a collective.
Definitely, and that is the reasons why today we get to continue to converse about what really happened in Mexico. Women in Mexico marched to the president's, we'd call it in South Africa, all things happening at this point in Mexico. They marched, 81 of them were injured, and it is due to that the president had supported someone that was allegedly put on charges of rape. And they said as women that we are standing up together collectively to fight even our own president. What role do presidents or politicians play in making sure that women feel safe in a country as Mexico, as South Africa, as any other country throughout the world?
You know, the problem with that is that personally, I don't feel as though a man can understand the issues of women faces, because he's not dealing with them.
Yes.
A man does not know what it feels like to leave your house every single day and go into a shop when all you wanted to do was buy airtime, but now you're getting all these comments. A man doesn't know what it means to go to a shop to buy bread. But every single day along the way, there's a man who feels entitled to your body for no reason. You don't even have to speak to him. He will comment on your body, whether you like it or not.
Certainly, but REITUMETSE, unfortunately, we've run out of time, and it is live TV. I must apologize, but thank you very much for joining me right here on the Morning Express.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Quite a pleasure. Well, South Africa, as we take you back to that incident that we had mentioned earlier on in Mexico, where women had marched to the president's building, and 81 of them were injured during the entire protest, really saying that whoever president that was accused of rape, really standing with his counterpart, saying that as women, they will not stand for this, and it will not take place within Mexico. And it was one of the politicians within Mexico. And here is what happened. With more news and updates coming up right here on Galaxy Universal Network. Thank you very much for joining me right here on the Morning Express. And for Galaxy News from the Morning Express desk, I am MBELE. Good morning. Have an amazing morning and afternoon.